Hello everybody, welcome to another week. I hope you had an absolutely lovely weekend. I certainly did. Time to go out in the garden, time to get some art done, and I did some cooking. But the most important of those three is art, because I finished another sketchbook, which is what I'd like to show you today. So before we go on, let's do all the business stuff. If you like what you see, please give me a like and don't forget to subscribe, and because it really helps my channel. And also, if you like what you see in my sketchbook, consider joining my Patreon, where you can learn how to sketch like I do and my techniques. I've got a few that I do that I don't know that others do. Other artists do. I haven't seen them. So yes, as far as I know so far, they're my techniques and I teach them on my Patreon. All of the links are in the description box below, and quite a few of my favorites out of this sketchbook will be put into a zine, which is available, a sketch zine, which is available on my Patreon shop, and you can access that without becoming a member of Patreon. So it's all to play for. But yeah, I do put them into, I love making zines from my sketches, which is a great way to share the sketchbooks with people. They're digital downloads, so there's no postage, no waiting. You can print them off if you want to, otherwise you've got them to look at, and they can be quite helpful actually if you're learning how to sketch and you want to see how another artist both simplifies an image and how they make marks to achieve it, because that's all important. Okay, onto the sketchbook. This is a mixed bag, this one. It's been happening for quite a while and I keep pulling it out and putting something else in it. And then I've tried to stop doing that this year, because if you've been watching these videos quite regularly, you'll see that one of my original ones where I hadn't finished a sketchbook at all, even though I've been painting for absolutely ages, like something like 5 years ago I started using sketchbooks rather than frameable pieces to put on the wall, and I didn't finish it. I didn't finish anything because I had about 7 sketchbooks on the go, and then all of a sudden they all got finished together. So I decided I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to stick to my sketchbook and yeah, finish it. So this one was started on the 4th of August 2023, and this one, yeah, I like this. Excuse me, allergies. This one shows my style that I love the most. I'm a mixed media artist. So I like to I start off with gouache substrate most of the time. And I will sometimes use, these are liquid watercolors, and then I go over the top with coloured pencils of all sorts, and then I go in with markers. So this one's got acrylic markers, it's got fine liners, there are watercolour markers, so all of those sorts of markers. And to be honest, I've bought huge amounts of art supplies, as we all do. And I think that I could probably boil down what I actually use to those particular things. So just, yeah, gouache, markers and coloured pencil. Within those subgroups, I've bought everything as well. So there's quite a lot of stuff here going on. As I said on Instagram, if you want to get rich and stay that way, open an art supplies shop and tell me where it is. Pencil on acrylic, actually just gouache and colour pencil over the top, bit of marker, a little bit of resist technique here. And I won't go into all of those details because, like I said, it's all on my Patreon, so it takes too long. So, and you'll be here all day. I'm sure you want to get on. A little bit of resist technique here on the end, which uses Neocolor 1, which is the non-water soluble type. And the rest is, yeah, colour pencil over the top. I don't love some of these. Some of them I really do love, and I'm sorry I put them in my sketchbook. Actually, I wish I had have painted them on something where I could frame it and put it on the wall. But you live and learn. Coastal path, somewhere in the south of Britain, where I decided ferns were necessary. Ferns do grow there, to be fair. So some of these places. So again, gouache and then actually I didn't use marker on this one. This is all gouache in layers with coloured pencil for the textures, and this here is also lots and lots of layers of gouache. Everything has layers and texture rule my life. This one is a scene from the national park where I live here in Germany, where we have lots of heathland and sheep, and just a quick one, same gouache, colour pencil, markers on the top. A very surprised looking squirrel. I have no idea what he's seen, but it has surprised him. And that was done with pastels and then sealed over the top and just layers of pastels, which are soft pastels in that case, which I love doing too, probably around the sometime in August. Gosh, so far I did all of these on the 4th of August. That's ridiculous. I do that sometimes. I'll just go in and I will binge one after the other. So they were the 4th of August. This one, who knows, 25th of October. So with quite a leap. Now, when I see a leap like that in my sketchbook from the 4th of August to the 25th of October, that tells me I've had 2 or 3 other sketchbooks on the go. And in my defense, I do that because they all have different paper. They have different formats. So I might want to do something with, one of the ones I'm enjoying at the moment, is this Hahnemühle sketchbook, which is a landscape format. And gosh, please excuse my brilliant camera craft there. I'll just put that away and just tell you about it. I like a landscape format. This is a portrait format. Sometimes I'll do a double page spread to achieve more of a landscape format. So I've got a little tiny one that I often use. If you look at my favorite 5 series, you'll see that there. And then I've got some square ones. So a leap in dates like that means that I have gone on and done something else somewhere else and then come back to this one. This one was inspired by On Ma Win and her acrylic ink pre-prepared pages, and Mel Chadwick's done a little bit of that too. So I just thought, you know what, I'd like to have a go too. And this is what I came up with. I quite like the idea. I like the randomness of the pre-prepared page where you just put acrylic ink on. I've got one acrylic ink. I bought white because I thought, enough is enough. So what I did here, instead of acrylic ink, is I watered down some acrylic gouache, which behaves in a very similar way for the purposes of this experiment. And just put it on at random, and then you paint whatever over the top, and it works out like it works out. I don't mind that. I think it's quite interesting. It's not something you could do and mean to do it, if that makes sense. You've got to actually do this, and it happens just by accident, and you get what you get and don't throw a fit about it, as people say. So that's what I did, and that's what I came up with. October, I love autumn. It's my favourite month, and the reason I love autumn is mushrooms. I love mushrooms and toadstools, and for some reason, even though we've got details in nature the entire year, I absolutely adore focusing more on them in autumn. I don't know why. Are you the same? Let me know in the comments if that rings a bell with you. Right. Oh, yes. I decided in the middle of nowhere to paint a fishing boat. That happens too sometimes, and this has got some gouache down there. Actually, I did a pre-prepared page. There we go. That's why. I wonder why I didn't do it there. Who knows? Anyway, I pre-prepared the page again with massive brush, couple of swipes of random colour, and then just ignored that and painted the boat over the top. And again, I really like it. I like where the colours fall at random and give me shadows that I wouldn't have had. And again, they're not shadows that you can do on purpose. You have to take what you're given, and that it changes the way you do things. And this is a good thing about a sketchbook. You can play in the sketchbook, do this, and if it doesn't work, you do that. Just flip it over. Okay, where are we here? This started out with a bat, which I painted, and then I left it for ages. So I started on, oh gosh, when did I start? Sometime in sometime in October. I can just see the date there. And I finished it on the 8th of June because I decided, I was reading Dracula at the time, which I do. I love that. It's my favourite book. So I collaged with some just random pieces of paper that I'd pre-painted. Collaged Whitby Abbey and a moon. That's also a collage. The bat's painted, and the rest is just done in Japanese watercolour and some coloured pencil. So it's got absolutely everything I could throw at it, and I really like that. It also was very evocative of the mood I was in while I was reading Dracula. My owl, this was for a tutorial for my Patreons. The bird of the month was an owl, so we painted this little guy. And this one is liquid watercolours. A green I mix myself. If you look out for the tutorial, my little palette of greens. I've got all the recipes there because this is a perfect green for this sort of thing. And the owl himself is gouache, colour pencil, details over the top. Not a hell of a lot of, only the eye has got a little bit of acrylic marker. The rest of it is all just coloured pencil over gouache. Very quick. That was another tutorial, painting light on water for my students. And this left this page. This book is great. It's actually an art space from Upcrate here in Germany. So I'm not sure if it's even available anymore. So please do not go looking for it and waste a lot of time. But if you happen to be online, Upcrate is the company and it's a fabulous book. You get about 5 for 25 euros, which is also cheap, and they're great. The only thing I don't like is the recto side of the paper is one sort of thing and the verso is another. And I don't like painting on this side as much. It doesn't work out the same way. So it's one of those papers that is not the same both sides. You can get some that are, that's great. And I tend to pack my sketchbooks. I don't leave spaces. I pack them in, which is a pain really, because then if I find something I like and I think, well, I can cut that out. It's my sketchbook. If I want to, I'll cut the page out and I'll frame it. Except I like what's on the back as well, so I can't. So that's the downside of that. These are a couple of things. Let me grab this if I can do it without upsetting the camera. This is a Sennelier ink brush, preloaded, and yeah, it was quite fun actually. I just did things, and because this was water, I thought, well, I'll continue that theme with just some random shapes and some birds flying, and then I thought might add some just random water again. And through it, you can see the waves, how I was teaching my students where the light comes from and what waves should look like and, more importantly, shouldn't. And it just blurred the seagulls. And I thought, you know what, that works. And this is what a sketchbook's for. My pelican that I didn't finish looks like a pineapple, but, you know, less said about him the better. But I like the seagull, the seashells are nice, and I like this effect here. And this is why we keep a sketchbook, because you can play in it, and it's so worth it. If you're not a sketchbook person, today's the day. Doesn't have to be an expensive one. I've got some that I paid more than I should have, and I've got some that was so cheap it's almost embarrassing, and they're some of my favorites. So, you know, and a lot of mid-range. It all goes both ways. But no, so that was a tutorial. This was another, just a play. Again, I've got a couple of these. I haven't just got that one. Me being me, I've bought 3. So I've also got some from Pentel, I think these are. They're not actually marked. Wait a second. They're marked in Chinese, so that's, or Japanese, that actually, my apologies, that's not very helpful. Pentel, it says it on there. So these two are Pentel, and this one is a Sennelier. And they're really quite nice, actually, for just making huge random marks. And what I was doing here was trying to, again, use the side of the paper I don't like. And I had started by making a little colour swatch for this one. So just playing around, and I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose then, have I? Because I don't like this side of the paper anyway. I wouldn't frame that at the moment because I've got others that I like better. But just using colours that don't really occur in this setting. And what it did was it's given a mood, like, so the shadows here being turquoise and a dark aqua sort of colour, and jade green, sort of sea green, jade green, and a turquoise this side, and then just green for the rocks, have given the feeling of cold. And then you've got this warmth up the middle, which highlights the little hut. And I don't mind it, actually. I don't think it's something I want to do a lot because it's not what I do. You'll see in the next page is more what I do. Up till now, it's been a mixed bag of playing. Yeah, so it's fun. It's something to do just once, just using random colours and not any. And it's a great way if you've got a set of colours and some of them are not colours you like. Really good way to use them. So, you know, just say, well, at least I did take off the sharp factory sharpen point off that pencil and made it worth the €3 I paid for it. Next of all, this is a bit more experimentation. This is with Neocolor 2, which are the water-soluble Neocolors. And if you've not seen those, let me just grab a tin. I bought these little tins off Amazon quite cheaply, and they're just perfect for this. So I've got one for each sort of colour. These are Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2, and these are the water-soluble wax pastel. I mean, if you've done any sort of science in your life, that's quite weird to say just right off the bat there. But they work like watercolor sticks, that sort of thing. So I, drew with them, and actually I can see I've gone over the top of this with a little bit of white acrylic ink. I've got the De La Rowney FW white acrylic ink, which I particularly like, and that's the only one I've bought at the moment. That'll probably change. But as I said, I've elected to buy acrylic colours instead and just water them down, because for what I use them for, that's absolutely fine. And I've gone over the top of them with coloured pencil. And when you use these, if you use them undissolved, so you do all your drawing and just leave them, they're still quite waxy, and colour pencils just do not like to go over the top of them. But they change property when you dissolve them in water, just with your normal brush and so forth. And then your coloured pencils go over the top. You can also go over the top with markers and things like that. So they're really quite versatile. So the next couple of pages are all made with these Caran d'Ache Neocolor. This one here, I've gone one step further. Like, I love doing these big dramatic, probably doesn't occur in nature skies. I can see white ink, the acrylic ink over the top, and then I've done some coloured pencil here on my trees. These are the sorts of, these are my trees, I can say. I mean, other people probably have them too. When I do trees, the ones that are furthest away, this is how I do them. So I make blobs with my dark green that I pre-mix. Then I go over the top with coloured pencil, and I highlight the coloured pencil, sometimes going off the edge of the tree just to show light in the tree, because I adore that. And the trees that are closer to me, I'll be more likely to do this sort of thing. So, for example, that's kind of this was before I sort of refined that particular tree. So these are a bit spikier, but the trees further away, that's what I do. The trees closer up, or anything close up, I will do with a bit more detail. So if I had overhanging branches here, you'd see the individual leaves, and that would work as well. This is just a random landscape. Some of these places don't exist. I'll sit down and I will do something from my head based on what I might have seen during the week or something like that. Sometimes I look on Unsplash and Pixabay have got great royalty-free images, and sometimes Map Crunch, which will take you to a place, and you, at complete random, you can set the parameters to a certain extent, but it takes you at complete random and you just paint what you see, and a lot of artists do that. I also like to do foreground detail in my work at some point, anywhere along this front edge, because it makes me feel as though I'm anchoring the viewer in my artwork. So instead of just sort of having a field, that could mean that you're actually walking through the field. Once you put that foreground detail there, it looks like if you might have been on a road walking past a farm rather than standing in their field. So yeah, if that makes sense, that's sort of what I try to achieve there. But so the substrate here is all Neocolor too. And what I'm doing is practicing so that I can teach this particular technique to my Patreons once I've worked out what I want to get from it and what I'm trying to achieve. Because, yeah, I tend to go for muddy colours, but I do that on purpose. And this is why I like gouache too. These are good too, but why I like gouache is I can make it muddy. This one, I think, was the last of the experiments with the Neocolor. Same thing, just random colours, mix them all together, colour pencil down here, and then acrylic markers and all that thing over the top of a wax product. It's a miracle. What we've got available at the moment as artists is just an absolute miracle. And this is one actually that I would have probably framed. I would have liked to have something like this. I might do it again in a different incantation and not put it in my sketchbook. Back to the sea. I remember this was a Saturday night and I was already exhausted from being outside in the garden. And I couldn't be bothered painting anything. So again, I like to make some sort of marks. I don't like to have a day where I don't do anything. So I made it interesting. Lightwish, a company who got in touch with me and asked me if I would like to test some of their product, gave me some acrylic metallic markers and some acrylic brush markers, which are fabulous. And yes, I did want to test them. I'm always up for that. And this fish was using some marks from the brush markers over the top of gouache and also their metallic markers. I don't use a lot of metallic in my work, but I tell you what, there are metallic options in the natural world if you think butterfly wings, birds, dragonflies and things like that. And somewhere, oh look, I wouldn't even try and grab it right now. I did actually, hang on. Let me see if I can do this time without upsetting the camera, because I think it's in here. Yes, it is. My goodness, I found it. I did a collage of a hummingbird here as well, which it needs the acrylic. I mean, it doesn't. I've got a technique I use on ducks' heads before I bought acrylic markers. I didn't buy those. They were sent to me, and I thought, well, I will find a way to use them. So fish, birds, butterflies, dragonflies, that sort of thing. Anywhere where you're going to find that metallic naturally in nature, you can use them for. This was where I started reading Dracula, 28th of May. The other one was the bat one. So this is just a sketch. Again, this is back to my gouache substrate and coloured pencils, brush markers. Actually use quite a lot of. I found that the acrylic brush markers are particularly good for stone work, if you're doing stone with anything. So that's good. And some oil pastels in the front with lots of other acrylic markers. And I'm sorry if it's a bit shiny there. I've had to fix it, of course, so that I could go on adding layers, and also did not want to wait 3 lifetimes for the oil pastels to dry. I really like this one. And this was another one, again here, I like to put some foreground in. I like that to be dark. My distant trees are blobby and sort of, you can tell they're trees, but probably not what sort of tree, that doesn't matter. And a building. Lots of random marks, gouache first, and then acrylic markers over the top and some coloured pencil and lots of texture. I really enjoyed doing that one actually. Gouache and the usual culprits over the top. Bit of fun. This one, same gouache substrate, and these scrubby skies. What I use, if I can grab my brush here, I love this Deco Art Traditions Dome Blender. I'm sure other companies have them too, but these are the ones that were sent to me about 10 years ago. I've had it for a while and it's still as good as new. It gets quite a workout. So I'll dip into the paint, lots of water, a couple of colours of paint usually. This one's a light blue, a warm grey and a white, and then just scrub. And because this doesn't have the sort of tip that you've got to care about, like if you did that with something like this round brush, you would ruin the tip. Okay, you'd probably create a really nice special effects brush in the bargain, but you would ruin the tip and not have a round brush anymore. So if you're looking for a brush to do that sort of thing, something that doesn't have that sort of tip that you can scrub with is brilliant. This one, again, it's a Sunday night, I think. Saturday or Sunday night. Couldn't think of what I wanted to paint, but I knew I wanted to paint something, so I just painted something that I thought of. I love to join in with the Landscape Art Club on Instagram, and they have fabulous pictures to post. And this week was in Germany, and of course I'm always up to sketch Germany. It's beautiful. So I did 2 or 3 from this week. So that was the first one. Again, gouache first, and then coloured pencil, oil pastels added in, markers, the usual. And the textures, they're just brilliant. With the technique that I use, you get these fabulous textures, same on this cottage here, without really trying very hard, and on the grass and what have you like that. This was the second one I painted from that series of photos from that week. This is another one I wish I hadn't put in here, because I would frame this one. I like it, and I love the sky, it worked. And it's sort of going towards muddy and overworked, and that's why a lot of people, like I said, do not like gouache, but it's actually the reason I do like it, because I can achieve those effects. So, and that was the last one there. I didn't have as much time as I wanted to spend on this one, but I thought, look, I've started it, so I'll finish it. Again, this one I think is one that this is actually a Franken sketch, I think. I've put this together from 2 or 3 others. Just wanted to paint some water, enjoy doing this. Really enjoying these impressionist flowers with oil pastels. They're particularly fun to paint. And they add something to the foreground, especially at this time of the year, because I particularly enjoy painting winter trees as opposed to some of the summer trees. I like those too, but sometimes I like a winter tree, and this is not the time of the year we're in. So it's flowers at the moment and blobby trees. So that's what we're doing. My morning walk, and it really was quite bright. And that was in preparation for the tutorial that actually in this other one that I banged the camera with. I won't do it again. This is the actual tutorial that I had made for my Patreons last week. This is one of the ones that I did as a warm-up sketch to get into it, because we live near a beautiful pine forest and we walk through there, and this is what it looks like in the morning. This one's back in Britain again. Flowers. I was into my impressionist flowers and I wanted to get painting those and put more in, and really like them. I don't know that they're any particular species. I think some of them I can just about recognize, but mostly it doesn't matter because excuse me. Oh, it must be allergy season. It's particularly bad today. Considering the rain we've had, that's really unusual. Love this nice boiling sky, and it's a British church, this one, English church. And just the sort of place you'd find flowers in front of a brick wall, which is my absolute favourite sort of garden. Always dreamt of having a garden with a brick wall for some reason. Love this one too. Again, the light. The light in this is something that I really want. And again, this was my second warm-up sketch for the tutorial for my Patreons. Lots of foliage in the foreground, which anchors the person, the viewer into the scene. And what I particularly liked about this is when I create these backgrounds, I create them with random blobs, just different colours, and then end up creating something from that. And 2 of the blobs looked like people sitting on a bench. So that's what I turned it into. I didn't plan it. It happened. They're not there. They've never been there. This whole place is not here. It's a loosely... we lived in Norfolk for 9 years when we left Australia, and it is loosely based on the Thetford Arboretum in Norfolk, which is beautiful, and it's got all these fabulous trees. Of course, it's like a botanical garden, a small version of a botanical garden, and it's just great. And people do sit on benches, and there are benches, but like I said, very, very loosely based on that. But all the blobby trees, and I just paint the blobs and then I find trees in there and work out what goes where. This was the result. Love the shadows too. And they always add drama. Again, this was an evening one because this is a morning sketch. Morning is different to evening, and it's also different to the middle of the day. And if I can flick back here to another one, which I liked until I did this one. This one. I quite like that one. It's cold. It's further up north. There's no shadows there much to speak of. And I thought I liked it until I saw this. This has got life. This looks so flat now to me. Even this one that I thought, yeah, it's okay as a sketch. It's got no life in it. When you introduce light into the painting and dramatic shadows, all of a sudden it's alive. This is a real place now, whereas the other's a picture of a real place. Yeah, so this is the evening version. And I've always avoided evening skies because I always thought they looked a bit kitschy. This one's soft pastel, lots of soft pastel, and then I fix over the top and go on with my others. Actually, other layers. Down here is not pastel, that's gouache. This one is watercolour marker and some acrylic markers for the branches of the trees, coloured pencil blobs on the horizon, which most people would say, oh, look, they're bushes on the horizon. And these autumn, the evening tones, not autumn tones, are, yeah, begging for autumn now. Haven't had summer yet, so let's just one step at a time. These beautiful soft pastels, and I use, it is a gallery, Mangayo gallery pastels. A unison, if you can get them, are even better, I understand. I've never actually tried them, but I would like to. We can't get them easily here in Germany, and I dare say that the customs fees would be eye-watering if I could. I shall have a look and see what I can find in Britain. But yeah, pastels are really good for creating these sorts of skies as well. I would like to have a go with Neocolor 2 for a sky like this, because based on, sorry for flicking back and forwards there, based on these skies, I actually, see that's an evening sky, so actually that's very much the same sort of vibe, just different colours, but same vibe. And I think I can see where you could do the same thing there with those. So that could be two things. This one is a church in Bremen here in North Germany. And again, I wanted to paint a garden with some more impressionistic flowers and some random bushes and trees. Again, it doesn't matter because you fill it in, and as long as it looks realistic, it doesn't have to look realistic, it has to look believable. And this is what we've got to do with this sort of sketching. I'm not trying for realism. However, I have had a bit of an epiphany, and that I've noticed that when I paint something man-made, it's quite tight and controlled, and I really make sure that I've done it not exactly precisely, because again, it's not realistic, but it's a lot more tight and controlled than my natural elements in a picture, which are quite loose. And you'll hear the word loose all the time in art. There's constantly artists trying to loosen up their sketches. They're trying to do this, they're trying to do that. I don't want to loosen mine up and do, I mean, you would end up with stuff like, again, let's go back and, this is quite loose. And that's great, but it's not really what I do. See, this is all quite loose. When you look at this, it's quite stark and controlled compared to this. So what I've noticed I'm doing without actually realizing, sorry, I hope there's no glare on there. It's been fixed because of the oil. What I'm doing here is I'm getting certain elements that are really controlled. That would be a better word. And the rest of it is random and organic. Can we call it that? It's organic versus controlled. So when I do something man-made, that's the controlled bit, and the rest, it happens. And I can't control it very well myself. These blobs happen, and then I find shapes in them which turn into things. So I'm not really looking at anything and painting what I see there. I'm painting what I feel, which is totally different. But you might relate to that. Again, do let me know. This one, I realised I was almost finished, and this is a picture from the Norfolk Broads where we lived, nearby where we lived. Big skies, quite this sort of sparse foliage, and then large areas with wetlands. And sometimes it's funny because you drive down a main road in Norfolk and you look to your left or right to the fields, and you'll see a boat going through what looks like a field. Only because you live there that there's a deep ditch there and it's full of water and that they're on a canal. But the first time you see it, it's quite arresting because you see just a boat, just any sort. They've got the traditional Norfolk ones. I can't think of their name at the moment. I'll pop it in the comments if it ever comes to me. Those traditional Norfolk ones they've got and they still use, but then there's all sorts of others as well, and they're either coming or going from the sea or anywhere, but they'll appear in the middle of a field. So a field like this, and you'll see a boat stuck in the middle. You think, right, okay, need to double your dose, but no, it actually happens. So Norfolk's like that, and if you get closer to it, you get to this point where you can see that there is actually water there. And the final one, I don't like this at all. It's just awful. Again, it's on my least favourite side of the paper. I didn't have enough time and I rushed the garden. The garden it's not me. It's not what I like. I may play with this further. However, I don't mind the stone effect, which I used several layers of acrylic marker over the top of each other and just allowed them to layer up so that you could... So normally when I do brickwork, it, like I said, it's more controlled. So it'll be bricks and a brick pattern. With this, I just did random dashes of various sizes. And then I went over the same. And some of the next layer hit the same spot. Some of them went to the side of it. Some of them went off a bit more. And what I've ended up with is quite an organic brick or stone building, actually. So, yeah, interesting. Right, I do hope you enjoyed that. My goodness, look at the state of this. This is just typical. I can't keep anything clean and tidy. I don't even know what that is or why after some considerable time it's not dry. That's another mystery. I do hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, don't forget to give me a like and subscribe and consider joining my Patreon if you would like to learn any of this. There are some actual tutorials in this book, as I said, as we went along, and you will see them on the site if you go. Love to see you there. Otherwise, have a fabulous day, have a fabulous week. I hope everything works out for you and it's a brilliant time. And I will see you again next Monday. Thank you for watching. Bye.